Hello, and welcome to another episode of CJ Doodles. Today I'm going to show how to use the Flipbook in Autodesk Sketchbook Pro 8.51. Now, the Flipbook is only available to subscribers who pay the monthly service or the yearly. It doesn't come with the free download. And like I said, those monthly charges are I think probably $3 or $4 a month, or you can see if you can get one of the deals. I believe it's like either 30 or 40 for the whole year. So yeah, it's kind of worth it if you want to get into some forms of animation. So what I'm doing here is I went on ahead and I opened up the Flipbook. You would find that under File, New Flipbook, and then you would just select that. And then what happens is it pops open your frames, and that's the thing you see at the bottom. What I'm doing is I'm taking the last doodle I did and copying it over, and then I'm making my first two keyframes. Now, this is not going to be a full animation tutorial. I do recommend either getting some books, going online and looking at a couple tutorials. A really good tutorial is Becker's tutorial. He does of the principles of animation, and he goes over the 12 steps that is outlined in the book Illusion of Life by Frank Thomas and Ollie Johnston. And I like those tutorials because it's like really small snippets, like maybe 2 or 3 minutes, but they give such information on all the details of the animation. So what I'm doing here with using this Flipbook is I'm copying over the doodle onto the proper layer. Now in the Flipbook, they only give you like 3 layers. You get foreground, midground, and background. So what I do is I put my line art on the foreground, I put my color in the midground, and then the background remains exactly the same. And that's where you would put like either the room the person's in, the stuff that's not going to move at all. Those are called static poses. So what I'm doing here is I am outlining my line art. Now, if you know you're going to animate something, it's good to copy or save the line art by itself so you don't have to do this step. I was trying to figure out what I wanted to use as my demo. When I decided to do this one, I was like, oh, I forgot to save the line art. So I have to kind of go back and redraw it. I'm using the polyline tool so that I can get as close on it as possible. And what I'm doing is the color that you see of the old picture is in the midground on that layers tab. The line art is going to be put on the foreground tab, which is the layer above it. Once I'm done, then I will delete the color, because when you're working with your Flipbook, you only want to work with your line art first. You want to do what's called like a pencil test first before you even try to work with the color, because working with the color and animating with the color is going to be very daunting. It's better to get all your ideas out first with just the line art only, and then go through and color each frame. So that's what I'm doing right here. And I'm using my symmetry tools just to keep it spot on and to kind of speed up the process. So what I'm doing while I'm using the symmetry tool, when you're setting up your animation, you want to decide what you're going to do. Now, there are several departments in a real animation studio. Everybody has something to do. Usually you would decide what the movement is, and you would draw out thumbnails for that movement. In this case, I know I'm going to just animate the mouth only, so everything else is going to be considered like a static pose. and everything, or a static drawing, a drawing that doesn't move. And then the only thing that I want moving is the mouth. So that's what I'm focusing on while I'm working on this outline, because this is the most important part. I'm going to base the whole animation off of what I draw here from this first frame. Like I said, it's not an animation tutorial, but what animation is just several different pictures or several different drawings making one complete movement as if it was video. I believe it's 24 frames or something like that consist of one movement. The beautiful thing about now you can go very long with your movements, but with this particular Flipbook, I believe it gives you up to 300 or 400 frames. What you want to do is, when you've decided where you're going with it, you have to space it out a certain amount to make sure that the timing is right. So there's a whole lot of factors when it comes to animation. So just know with this particular tutorial, I'm doing it to show you how to use the Flipbook, because maybe you have an idea you want to work out and you don't know all the details with how to animate or how to use it. This can get you started so you can at least see that movement in action, and then later, if you want to do something, you know, on a professional level or even an intermediate level, or to submit somewhere, study those principles on animation first, because there's so many different things. There's slow in, slow out, there's squash and squish, shrink, there's exaggeration, because when you animate, you want to exaggerate the movement, because sometimes you don't see it. If you do like a head turn, you want to add a blink in there. There's all kind of different things, and there's all types of tutorials online that can help with that. Like I said, Draw with Jazza, Alan Becker. I recommend watching that first, the Alan Becker tutorial on the 12 principles of animation. I think that'll give you that first hardcore crash course in animation to get you started, and then go through other channels just to see other people's techniques, and then start learning your own craft. There's one on here called, I think, AMB Animation School. The artist, he's been drawing for years, and oh my goodness, just watching him do some of his live tutorials on just how to deal with the theory of drawing 2D images for animation, it's brilliant. So like I said, this tutorial is only covering the Flipbook, but if you really want to get detailed in animation, I recommend watching some of those channels and doing your reading and research. You don't always have to go to school. I mean, going to school is good, but reading can help you get to that level and just practice. Okay, so here I have my first outline line art drawn on my first frame. Now I just want to get rid of that color on the midground because I don't need it right now. I'm just going to focus on the line art and focus on this first pencil test of moving the mouth for using the Flipbook. So I went on ahead and deleted in the midground. That's the beautiful thing of working with layers. So we're going to call the frame that's highlighted in blue, if you look at the bottom of the screen, the one that's marked blue, that's in that little time frames component of the Flipbook. I'm going to take that figure and I'm going to animate it. So this would be called keyframe 1 or key 1. And then the next frame I'm going to pick is key unknown, because I don't know how many frames I'm going to need to create the movement. What I just did was I turned on what's called the onion skin, and it lets you go up, I believe, almost to like 12 pages back, just so you can see. And what you do is you turn it on and it gives you a faded view of the pencil line work before, so you can draw on top of it and kind of get precise of where you want the movement. So because that first frame was her with her lips closed, I know I want my last frame to be with her lips opening up, because she's either saying something or making a movement. So what I did was I turned on this onion skin, and I'm basically I drew the lips based on where I wanted her mouth to end, in comparison to that last photo. And this mimics what you see animators doing when they have the light box and like the 10 different pieces of paper, and they just draw and they lift it up and draw again and lift it up and draw again. That's basically what the onion skin is mimicking, and you can do that in digital form, and it really helps. What I just did was I copied and pasted the rest of the images, because those aren't going to move. Those are going to be the static parts of the Flipbook. The only thing I want to move is basically her mouth and her little chin. So I'm focusing on putting the lips exactly where I want it. And when I copied it, I did copy some of the old lips, but I'm able just to erase that. Now I'm putting this little part that's indicating a part of her chin. I'm going to lower that a little bit so that it looks like it moves, because when you open your mouth, your chin does drop down. Other parts of your face move too, but I only want to focus on these two areas just to demonstrate what the Flipbook can do. So as you can see, I'm drawing the lip again just to clean up the work, and now I'm toggling between the two so you can see the movement. The mouth is closed, the mouth opens, and you're gonna do that a lot. Flip between the two to test your drawing. Now in animation, you want it to be smooth as possible. So some people could say, oh, I'm done, but actually you want to add a couple of more frames to make the movement seem as seamless as possible. So there's two ways that you can approach this, and I'm writing this out here. The first way is straight ahead, and that's more of a spontaneous way of drawing your keyframes in animation. You would just literally go pose to pose to pose to pose. The other way is what's called pose to pose. This way is where you make your first keyframe and then your last keyframe, and then you go back and fill in your extremes, breakdowns, and in-betweens. I like pose to pose better when doing detailed things. I like straight ahead when you're doing more spontaneous things. So what I'm drawing here in these little notes, I'm showing you pose to pose. And the reason why I put 1 in question mark is because right now we still don't know how many frames we're going to need to complete the movement. So when I drew the line in between here, now I would make a frame that falls in between movement 1 and movement unknown. And then once I do that, I make 2 more in betweens to make the movement more seamless. So the terms you want to remember are keys. I didn't write that part down. Extremes, breakdowns, and in-betweens. You will hear that a lot in the world of animation when you're doing your frames. And like I said, doing straight ahead is more spontaneous. Like if it's like some type of movement where you don't need to know all of where you're going, but it's easier to do these types of things with pose to pose, because spontaneous, if you mess up one, you got to go back and clean it all up again, versus this way you could just move out one thing here or there and not disrupt the rest of your frames. Okay, so we're gonna do pose to pose. We know that first one is frame 1. We know the last one is unknown. We won't know what that last number is until we finish drawing our poses. So now I'm gonna make my first, you can call it a breakdown. Right now you can call it in between if you want to, but you want to save those words for when you get in between this one. So right now what I'm doing is I'm duplicating one of the frames. I'm going to go in and erase the mouth only, because that's really all I'm animating is the mouth and the chin. Everything else I want to stay static. And then I'm just going to erase the parts of the mouth I don't need, turn on my onion skin, and basically draw in between the lines of the mouth opening, because I'm trying to show or animate the mouth going from closed position to full open position. But you know how it is when you open your mouth, you don't just open it wide all the way. It opens, then it slowly shows a crease, then it shows another crease, then it shows the full open mouth, and you want animation to reflect that as well. So that's what I'm doing right here. My onion skin is on. I can see the layer behind, and that's the only one I have turned. That's the cool thing about this onion skin, is that it allows you to see almost up to 12 layers ahead of it and 12 layers behind. And go online and look at people who do hand-drawn animation. They basically have paper on a light box, and they're just flipping paper, and they get their pencil and they just start drawing, and they do it really fast. It's really amazing to watch. It's a true craft and art form. So that's why I suggest learning those principles as well. I'm teaching the Flipbook because I know we want to get out there and learn and do, but also go back and learn those principles. You know, I've been studying this now for a year, and I'm still trying to just master the principles. Okay, so right here is where I know I want that top lip to kind of come in. And what I do sometimes is I'll flip back between. The onion skin is there, but sometimes you need to clear your eyes a little bit, because it's going to happen. You're looking at these images over and over again. So you're going to be doing a lot of flipping. And now I know I want to draw that one line of the lip kind of above it, the bottom layer of the lip. If you can look deeply in the onion skin, you see some of it. And then I know I want that first crease like right in the middle. So see, now watch when I flip between the three. The movement is now smoothing out. The more frames you draw, the more smooth your animation looks. The less frames you draw, the more choppy, jump cutty, awkward it's gonna look. It's a lot of drawing, but the more you do it, the better you'll get at it. And if you're really determined to see a complete work, you're gonna draw. Turn on an audiobook, turn on some music, put on a movie and just listen to it while you're working, zone out and draw. That's really what it is. What I just did was I hit play on this little keyframe Flipbook portion because it lets you do that. Every now and then I will hit play, but I have to space out my frames if I want it to play properly. And with this tool, with the Flipbook, it's gonna basically play only the frames you have set up between the bar. So if I scoot this layer over, which is what I'm trying to do, it gets really tedious. It'll tell you which frame you're starting on, and that's what it'll start playing. And what I'm doing is I'm just testing out the movements to see where I want to add, what I want to add. So now I'm lining up my frames just so that I can see it play in sequence. Okay, so now I hit play and it's just gonna play it. It's gonna move fast because I only have my frames on. Let's see, the first one is on that 1, 2, 3. The next one's on 3. So what I need to do is spread it open a little bit more, move the Flipbook pages over. It's good to do it like at 6, and each, even if it's gray in between, it's gonna show the last frame until the next one pops up. What I'm writing here is basically, I was doing my timing chart, and you'll hear a lot about timing charts as you get more into animation. When you write your numbers, and you just you'll write 1, 2, 3, and there'll be little lines going up, kind of telling you how to draw your frames, how to follow your arc. And like I said, these are all terms that you'll find when you study the principles of animation. There's a whole lot of things happening all at once to produce that one art form of drawing and the movement. So like Walt Disney, they perfected all of this. So yeah. So here, what I'm doing now is I know I want to space out my spaces in between my drawings. I haven't used my Flipbook in a while, so I'm sitting here doing some trial and error of cleaning up what I had. I just copy and pasted my next in-between frame, and I turned on my onion skin. I'm going to erase the lips again, and then I'm going to make an in-between frame between frame 1 and that new frame that I just made. So I'm basically going to draw the lips again, but I'm going to draw them in between the way the lips are from closed position to that first crease. Now I know you may be thinking, okay, you're doing too much. No, it's going to streamline the movement when you do it this way versus just having 3 frames and it's a very quick pop open, pop close. You know, in life, your mouth doesn't move that way. In film, it doesn't move that way. So it's good to make many frames in between your frames, and that way it will look more seamless in your animation. So right now I'm just spreading it out because you don't want them to be back to back. You want to have each frame spread out more, at least 4 to 6 frames apart. That way the movement just feels better. Right now I hit play on it because I wanted to see it move in action. I covered up my words because the words are distracting the movement. Okay, so I like where I'm going. Now I know I want to add another frame in between the last frame and that middle frame we first made. So now I'm just setting up my Flipbook area to add another frame and to draw another in between. So right now I'm just getting that set up. I'm spacing things out the way I would like to see it. I know I want to place that frame in between these 2 right here that I'm highlighting, as you can see. So I just duplicated what I needed. I'm going to erase the lips because I don't need those particular lips. I'm going to turn on my onion skin, and then I'm going to draw the mouth in between those 2 movements based on where the lip positions are. So it looks like when we play it back, so it'll look like the mouth is still opening up versus just a quick pop open. I hope that makes sense. So watch how I do it. I erase the line so I can see what I'm doing. Now I can see the onion skin of the page behind it, or the frame behind it. Now I'm going in and I'm drawing my line in between the drawing. As you can see, I didn't draw it on the line that you see or the line under it. I drew it in between it to create the movement. And now when I go between the 2, I can see where I want to be. As you can see, I turned on the onion skin in front of it now because I wanted to match you want to match your movements. Each movement is the next lead to the next movement. So see, now look what happened. So I'm just flipping between the 2 because I want to see if it works, and it looks like it does work. Now I want to reposition that little chin indent that I created, because if her mouth is moving, her chin should be moving. So I see on that one frame it's in one spot, the other frame it's lower. So I want to bring this frame and I want to move that chin in between those 2. And that's where you rely on your onion skin, and then also just looking at what you're toggling. And so that's what I'm doing right here. And so I think I like it. And yes, it moves perfectly now as I hit play. And to be honest, I could make more frames, but if I do that, this tutorial will be very long. So I like what I have here. I think this will work for now as just a test. Like I said, if I wanted to be even more crisp and detail, I'll make more in betweens to seam it up. But for this particular tutorial, I think this is fair with, what is that, 5 frames. Like I said, I could get a lot more. You could make this up to 24 to 60 frames if you wanted, but just for this tutorial's sake, I'm gonna stop it at 5 frames. And now I'm gonna add the color back in, because the whole demonstration is to show you how to use the Flipbook. So all of our color, oh wait, I'm deleting because I'm in the wrong layer. All of our line art is in the foreground. Now we want to bring all that color back into the midground. There's two ways to do it. You can go through and you can color it each way. That's why I kept that first copy and paste, so I can just go back and use the eyedropper tool and bring it back. But you also want to remember, because it's animation, you don't want anything else moving but the things you made to move. So sometimes it's better just to copy and paste. You just got to make sure you're lining everything up properly. So right now I'm just coloring it in, and then in a few minutes you're gonna see me start copying and pasting it. And like I said, it's okay to color it, but you want to make sure that everything you color back in looks the way the other one looks. Sometimes copy and pasting can save you the details of doing that. That's why working digitally it saves you some time, but you don't want to lose the craft by working digitally because you have that option. You want to use any kind of digital workstation. You want to use it as a tool and not as a crutch. That's how I've always done it. I do recording arts, and I learned first the digital audio workstations, but then when I was in school, they made us also learn the analog workstations. I'm glad I'm a Zennial, because that's all I used to use as a little girl was the tape deck, and learning the analog system, understanding the sound with the hiss and the tracks. And then that helps me see the digital audio workstation even better. So now that I don't just rely on it, but I'm using it as a tool. I hope that made sense. So now I'm copying, pasting the color into all of the midground sections for each frame. And I'm doing that to save time, and then also to make sure that the face doesn't change too much through the animation, because I can go back and draw it, but then I got to keep flipping back to make sure that everything I've drawn is the same color. So all you have to do is just put it in, line it up, use something. What I did was I based it on the nose. I was like, okay, I know I can keep the nose. That's because those are static poses. And then I just lined it up. And then once I got it, I popped it in, and then you go in and you fill in what you need. So here, the neck needs some color. I'm probably going to go back and draw that in a minute. And then you go to the next frame, you copy that in, you base it on the nose, pop, and then you go in and you erase the parts of the lips you don't need, because the line art is on the foreground. So you won't lose your animation, you're just adding the color. So I added that on that next frame. Now I'm going to get my eraser tool. Let's see. Yeah, I'm grabbing that eraser tool, and now I'm erasing the lips, because I don't need the lips of what I'm copying pasting. I want the lips of my line art, and I'm going to do that for the next 3 frames. Once again, it's a tedious task for just 10 seconds of animation. But your end result you'll feel rewarded. And like I said, animation is a lot of work. Every step is a department. One person does line art, one person does thumbnails, one person does in-betweens only, extremes only, one department does color only. So when you're a team of one doing flip books, just know it's a lot of work, and it's gonna require time and patience. But if you're determined to see a finished product, if you're determined to tell a story, don't give up, because it's a lot of work. That's why I only limited this tutorial to 5 frames, because if I really added some more frames, this tutorial would be a lot longer. Now I'm just cleaning up the colors. Now with Flipbook, you're only given 3 layers, so you have to be very specific on your choices. Now, of course, if I was just doing something without the flip book and I had unlimited layers, I could put the lips on one color on one layer, the skin on another. But because you're limited and you want to keep your line art by itself, your color by itself, your background by itself, you got to get really detailed here and spot on. So I'm just filling in the colors of the lips. And then after I clean up those creases, I'm going to go into the opening of the lips and make that black, because we're telling a story. The mouth is opening. Her inner parts are not going to be red. It's going to be black. So that's what I'm putting right here. And it'll make more sense when I actually hit play on the flip book when it's done. So I'm just cleaning her up. Okay, I got what I wanted. And I like the transition. I see I need to clean up the lips on that first one, but I see something happening there. And like I said, it's a process. Okay. So now I'm on that third one and I'm just same process, lined it up with the nose, erasing the lips because my line art is going to tell me what the lips should be doing. That's the beautiful part about this thing. The line art is dictating the animation. I just got to fill in the color based on what the line art is telling me to do. And I just go in, I clean it up, I add the black again. When it comes to opening the mouth and showing teeth, sometimes when you first open it, you may not see the teeth. And then when you open it more, the teeth will appear. So right now I'm erasing what I don't need. I'm going to fill it in based on the position of the lips. And then I think on the last 2 frames, I'll expose the teeth. So that's what I'm doing right here. So now I'm just cleaning up that line, the color around the lips. And because I believe this is frame, what is this, 4 going into 5, I'm filling in that crease there and just making this lip look like it's opening up a lot more. And when it comes to the exposure of the teeth, based on where I am in the frame, that determines if I want teeth to be shown. Because remember, if it's black, it looks like she doesn't have any teeth. But depending on just what you're opening up, and it's gonna move really fast, as you can see. So now I'm on frame 4 and 5, and so I'm just gonna do the same thing, copy and paste over in the midground the color so that it matches. Erase the lips because I only want to work on what's moving, and the line art will tell me what to do. So I'm pasting it in, lining it up based on the nose because I know that's not going to move, and that'll line everything else up the way it needs to be. And I'm doing that in the midground. and then I just go in the mouth. I erase what I don't need. And you can see on this one, the lips are open a lot more. See, I turned off the color for a second because I needed to see where I was erasing. And that's the cool part about layers. You erase the bottom layer, it doesn't affect the top layer. So this is a really good program, this Flipbook. I've spent a lot of time with it with other projects when I was learning. It's funny, when I first learned how to do the Flipbook, you should have saw my early animations. They were horrible. I was doing way too much because I didn't understand the principles. I would draw too many things on the first 2 frames, thinking that it was gonna present something, and I'd spend hours working on those 3 frames thinking I was doing something, not realizing that that movement should have been spanned out to like 10 frames on its own or 15 frames on its own. So that's why I say learn those principles. Be patient with yourself. Draw a thumbnail first just so you know where you're going. Sometimes thumbnails will save you drawing too many pictures because you're drawing this over and over again. Another rule of thumb with animation is don't put too much stuff in your line art. Keep it as simple as possible. I know when you do a regular drawing, you want to get detailed by itself, but when it's a Flipbook, when it's animation, scale it all the way down. Oh, look, the mouth moved. So now this is where I'm exposing some of the teeth. So I'm bringing some of the black in, and then I'm gonna figure out where I want my teeth. And then I'll add the teeth, and then on the next layer, I'll show how I expose the rest of the teeth. So that's what's going on right here. So here's the rule with making teeth. My sister taught me this. She's a very good artist. Oh my goodness, I'm trying to get her to start a channel. This girl's been drawing her whole life. She's 18 now, but she's been doing it since she was 5, and she's taken many classes, many courses, has had mentors, and this girl, she now gets commissioned to do things. But what she taught me about teeth was you fill everything in the color of the teeth. To separate them, you're going to use your black or pink or whatever you want the gums to look like. But the thickness of the lines determines if your teeth have a gap or if your teeth are straight. It'll make sense in a few minutes when I do this. So I took that ballpoint pen and now I'm drawing in my teeth. I also lowered the size because if I did it at the thicker size, it would look like she had gaps in her teeth. And you know, maybe you want that because some people do have that. I was always told when I used to get braces, because I used to have a big gap, that in Africa, if you had a gap, they considered you like royalty or something like that. I thought that was really cool. I did get braces because I was a theater major and I was a performer and I wanted to have the look of a performer. So yeah. So now I'm just cleaning up everything around the mouth because now the mouth is opening, so it's exposing those teeth. And then I know on my next layer, because the mouth opens more, I gotta reveal more teeth. So keep things, you know, with continuity, consistency. I think this is inspiring me for my next one. I'm going to make a girl with a grill or something. I just, you know, it's art. I love art. So now her mouth is open. So now with this last frame, I need to make sure that the teeth are exposed, that the lips are the right color. So I'm going to do the same thing, copy and paste. And I'm actually going to copy and paste the last frame because I want those teeth to line up a lot better. So that's what I'm doing right now. So I'm copying and pasting my last frame. I think we're going to call this girl Doodles. Every character has a name, I swear. Okay, so now I copy and pasted her from the last frame. This is still the mid-ground color. I'm copy and pasting the color in the mid-ground. The line art on the last frame is still dictating what I'm doing. Now I'm going to go in, I'm going to erase what I don't need, and I'm going to clean up what I do need. And I do know because her mouth is going to be open more teeth need to be exposed, specifically at the bottom. So I turned it off for a second because I wanted to see where I was going, because those lines are all over the place. Now that I can see it, because I know what I need and I know what I don't need. And it's tedious when you're a team of one. Now, if this was a whole nother team, it wouldn't be as tedious because they would only be responsible for one specific thing. So I know I want these teeth to be exposed at the bottom. So I go in, I fill in my white first. And that's what I'm doing. And then after I do that, I'm going to go back and add the black parts to separate the teeth as far as, where it goes. I'm coloring up the extra lip part because her lip moved again, so that's exposing more teeth. And you just go in and you fill those teeth. Right now it looks like a hot mess. When I'm done, it's going to make sense, especially when I run the animation. So that's what I'm doing right here. Okay, so I'm filling in those teeth because my black lines are in there right now. Everything is looking real weird and funky, but once I fill it in and then add the black lines, everything will look really decent, and it'll look the way it needs to for the animation. And like I said, depending on what type of teeth you want. If you want a gap, you want to expose the gap, you make that black line, or if you want a pink line, depending on what you're using to determine the lines, because there's all types of ways. You either make it thicker or thinner. That's what determines it. So right now I'm just filling it in, and then I'm going to take my black and I'm going to go through and separate each tooth based on, aesthetically what it should look like as a tooth, and based on what it should look like with her mouth being open more. And so it's all coming together. The goal is keep working towards the final image that you're trying to create. As you're working, it's gonna look like a hot mess. That's what I always tell myself when I'm starting out a doodle, or if I'm doing something and I'm using a reference. I tell myself, right now everything looks a mess. Don't stop till it looks the way you want it to look and how it should look. I just realized that one tooth over here in the corner, I did not put a black line. You won't notice it as it moves, but I'm noticing now by itself. So look at that. It animated. So now I'm just going to clean up the lip, get it looking pretty, comb through each one and make sure everything is all filled in. And then I can run my color test, because I already did my pencil test. I ran it by itself. Now I'm just adding the color in to finish the story, to finish the dimensions of the story. And like I said, I'm doing this to show how to use the Flipbook. That's why it's so detailed. But as far as for animation, I really want, if you're interested, go do your research. Watch, even if you don't get the book, go to that tutorial by Becker. It's, like I said, it's just the 12 principles of animation. And I think each one is like 2 minutes a piece, and it just goes through the details of how to draw it, following your arcs, not twinning, not doing just the things to do. It's basically the do's and don'ts of animation, and it is a true art form. You're drawing on an arc. Each movement is following an arc, and then there's other little details as well. So there we have it. Look at that. So I'm just testing it now. I moved it where I wanted, and I'm hitting play. So her mouth is moving. I think she's going. She's a smacker. And that's the fun part about animation, is adding sound effects. I will do a tutorial on how to do mouth movements. That's also detailed. The good thing is you don't have to move the mouth on every word. It's basically choosing between your vowels and your consonants. And there's a whole sheet on that. So I will construct a sheet for you based on what I've learned through all the various books I've read and tutorials. And then I'll do one specifically on how to get the character to say something. But right now I'm just demonstrating the... Maybe she's got something in her teeth. I'm saying it right. Like, you know, she's doing like a gesture of some sort where she's having a reaction. You know, you do that lip smack. But this gives you basically a tutorial on how to use the Flipbook, and I did it in 5 frames. Like I said, if I really wanted it more detailed, I'd add some more frames to really smooth out the movement. But for the tutorial, I think this is suffice as far as showing you what this program can do. And then I noticed there I needed to clean up her lip color just a little bit more for my liking. So now the next steps of the tutorial, I'm going to show you how to export your frames out. There are several ways to do it, so that's what I'm going to show you next. Give it a few minutes. Okay, now I'm moving into the next part of the tutorial. I'm a goofy goofer, I know. Okay, here's how to export your frames. So, you know, you look at your frames, you look at what you want to export. You go to File, Export, and then you can choose between, I believe it's PNG, PSD, WMV, MP4, or animated GIF. I like to do MP4, and then you go in and you specify which frames. If you don't do that, it's going to do the entire Flipbook. I only worked between, I believe it was frames 5 and frames 25. So I only want them to export between frames 5 to 25, and then I click OK. It's already set on the basic dimensions 1280 over, what is it, 720? I'm probably, if I'm wrong, I know what the correct dimension is. I'm saying it. You save everything, it exports it, and then you open it in whatever program you have on your computer. So I found it in my computer right there. Pop it open, and boom, that's what it'll look like. And there we go. And then from there to add your sound, I'm sorry, I'm gonna keep doing it with the lips, because that's kind of what she's doing, like she's going But what you would do from here is you would take that export and then you put it in your Adobe or your Final Cut Pro, and then you add your sound effects, everything you want, and then that's basically how you would animate. So that's what that is. Here are a few tips. I've said it already. Learn the rules of animation. Like I said, this tutorial is basically to show you how to use the Flipbook, not how to do animation, but I had to rely on the rules that I know of animation to demonstrate what this Flipbook can do. Check out Alan Becker tutorials. I'll post the link in the description. Yes, it is 12 videos. Like I said, they're about 2 to 3 minutes, and I guarantee it, after you watch, you'll be more inspired to go and learn all the many things with animation. Watch various videos, learn the craft. But this is a true craft, but also practice. Do the flip books, do little stories, and do it to completion, because I guarantee you, when you see the complete product, you will feel more inspired to keep going. Like when I did my first animation, I did a book trailer. Now looking back, I really need to go back and clean it up. But when I finished it, I was so excited because I had this idea in my head of what I wanted to see. And I finally pumped it out and got it together. It took me 9 months because I was doing it by myself, and it was only like a 3-minute clip. But when I did it, and saw the completed work, saw the sound effects, saw the music, and just all of it, it inspired me to get better. It inspired me to keep going, and it inspired me to keep sharing stories, because I'm a storyteller. I write. I like to see my writings in visual format. I studied screenwriting and cinematography, and what got me into some of this was just storyboarding. And then seeing those storyboards, I was like, I want to see some animation. So learn the rules of animation, learn and understand frames, movements, what slow in and slow out means. And then also, like I said, go watch I'm recommending going to watch that Becker, because he's basically taking the book, The Illusion of Life by Frank Thomas and Ollie Johnson. That's basically like the fathers of animation. And he basically put it in like a 12 video format, and it's a good crash course. And then watch various shorts, watch movements over and over again. My favorite movement is when Ariel in The Little Mermaid is on that rock, and she lifts up, pops down, and then pops again. The arc they created in that is brilliant. I wouldn't understand that had I not studied just some of these principles. So do that. I just want to thank everyone for watching. I will definitely do more of these types of videos and tutorials. Like I said, if I know something, I will share it. Whatever I don't know, I will post a link. Other things, like I said, I wrote up here, think of types of frames, and then also timing charts, and knowing how to write those out, because you have to time your movements. Right here, I'm writing out some things you would see. So you see how I wrote the numbers 1, 2, and 3, that represents your frames. And then you have a line and the tick marks that represents, just where you want to be placing certain thumbnails. Another way you'll see it written out is this way, where it's long. Now, I did mine in 5 frames. Your frames can go up to 30, 68, all these, they can keep going. So that's what I'm saying. These are all kind of different things you want to look out for if you're taking notes. And you want to just get deeper into animation, but at least to get started with the flip book, you have this. So thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this, please like, comment, share, subscribe. I don't profess to know everything, but what I do know, I am most willing to just share, and show the basics of what I know. Learn the basics, master the basics, and enjoy the flip book. This flip book is amazing. I can't say that enough. And I'm post things that you've done with it. I love watching shorts. That is so amazing, telling stories. I'm trying to think what else before we end this, because there's so much I want to talk about with this. Explore your scenes. Don't try to do too much at once. Keep it to like, okay, I'm just going to do a 1-minute scene today. And if that's too much, I'm gonna do a 30-second scene today. But build up, and just start it out. So please like, comment, share, and subscribe. And like I said, if you have a question, please say something, and if I know the answer, I will answer it. If I don't, I will post a link. All right, have a good day. And this is Chanel J. Wilson for CJ Doodles.